A teenager with a pistol fired 2 shots. 17 million people died. This is how one kid rewrote the 20th century. June 28, 1914. Sarajevo. An open-top car carrying the Archduke of Austria-Hungary rolls down a crowded street. But nobody knew this would be the moment that shattered the European empire and plunged the world into 4 years of industrial slaughter. To understand how, we have to go back to a teenager named Gavrilo Princip. He was 19 years old, skinny, intense, and obsessed with one idea: Serbian freedom. Princip grew up in a small Bosnian village, orphaned young, raised on nationalist poetry and revolutionary dreams. By age 16, he had joined a secret military group called the Black Hand. Their goal was simple: drive the Austro-Hungarian Empire out of Serbian territory. The thing is, Austria-Hungary wasn't just any empire. It was one of Europe's great powers, ruling over millions of Slavs it considered second-class subjects. And in 1914, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the throne, announced he was visiting Sarajevo. Here's the kicker. He chose June 28th, the anniversary of a historic Serbian defeat. Intentional humiliation. When Princip heard about the visit, something clicked. This wasn't just an archduke. This was the symbol of everything he hated. He became convinced that killing Franz Ferdinand would spark a Serbian uprising and finally free his people. The Black Hand gave him a pistol, a hand grenade, and a cyanide capsule. The plan was simple: kill the Archduke or die trying. Princip had never shot a gun before in his life. He had no military training. He was just a kid with an ideology and a weapon. Fast forward to June 28, 1914, 11 in the morning. Sarajevo is packed with crowds and soldiers. Franz Ferdinand's open-top car rolls through the street. He's sitting next to his pregnant wife, Sophie. Then a bomb explodes. Nedeljko Kabranovic, another conspirator, hurls a grenade at the motorcade. The blast bounces off the car and detonates behind it. 2 officers are wounded, but Franz Ferdinand survives. The Archduke is shaken but determined. He insists on continuing his schedule. He's not going to let a bomb stop him. Princip had been standing on the street the whole time. He saw the bomb explode. He thought the mission had failed. Devastated, he left his position and walked away. The whole thing felt over. But then something incredible happened: a wrong turn. Due to confusion about the route, the Archduke's driver turned down Franz Joseph Street, exactly where Princip was standing. The car slowed down. It was moving at maybe 5 miles per hour. The moment he thought he'd missed had returned. Princip's hand trembled. He pulled out his FN Model 1910 pistol, a .380 caliber gun, small enough to hide in a jacket pocket. The car was 3 feet away. He had seconds. He fired once. The bullet hit the Archduke in the neck. He fired again. The second bullet struck Sophie in the abdomen. Panic exploded, people screaming, soldiers shouting, chaos. Franz Ferdinand collapsed into Sophie's lap. Her dress turned red with blood. Both were dying. Within the hour, both the Archduke and his wife were dead. Princip tried to end his own life. He shot himself in the chest, but the wound wasn't fatal. He swallowed the cyanide capsule, but the poison was old and expired. It didn't work. He jumped into the Miljacka River, hoping to drown. Soldiers pulled him out. Gavrilo Princip was arrested, soaking wet, a teenager who had just killed the heir to an empire. He was 19 years old. He had never committed a crime before. Now he'd killed the future king of Austria-Hungary. The Austro-Hungarian government was furious. They blamed Serbia for the assassination and decided to crush them once and for all. On July 23, 1914, just 25 days after the assassination, Austria sent Serbia an ultimatum. It had 10 demands. Some Serbia could accept, but one was impossible: allow Austria-Hungarian officials to operate inside Serbia. That would mean surrendering their sovereignty. No country would ever agree to that. Serbia said no. Austria-Hungary got the answer they wanted: an excuse for war. On July 28, Austria declared war on Serbia, but this wasn't just a local conflict. Europe was a chessboard of alliances. Every major power was locked into treaties with others. Russia was bound by treaty to protect Serbia, so when Austria declared war, Russia mobilized its army. Germany was allied with Austria. When Russia mobilized, Germany felt threatened. On August 1, Germany declared war on Russia. Germany then looked west. France was Russia's ally. On August 3, Germany declared war on France too. Germany's war plan required invading France through Belgium. Britain had promised to protect Belgium's neutrality. When German troops crossed into Belgium, Britain declared war on Germany. The chain reaction was complete. In just 5 days, a Balkan crisis had become a continental war. By August 4, 1914, most of Europe was at war, and it all started because a 19-year-old pulled a trigger. What happened next was unimaginable. Trench warfare, machine guns, poison gas, millions dead. By 1918, when the war finally ended, 17 million people were dead. Empires collapsed. The Russian Tsar was overthrown. The Ottoman Empire fell. The map of Europe was completely redrawn. The Spanish flu that followed the war killed another 50 to 100 million people. The 20th century was born in blood. And Gavrilo Princip, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. He was still just a teenager. He served in brutal Austro-Hungarian prisons, tortured and isolated. In prison, Princip wrote his thoughts on the walls. He carved his name. He reflected on what he'd done. He contracted tuberculosis. By 1918, as the war was ending, Princip was dying in his cell. He died on April 28, 1918. He was only 23 years old. He never knew the full scale of what his 2 shots had caused. He died believing he was a martyr for Serbian freedom. The irony is brutal. Princip wanted to liberate Serbia from Austria-Hungary, and he did. But the cost was unimaginable. Millions of lives, 4 years of horror, entire villages wiped out. Some people see Princip as a freedom fighter, a young hero standing up to imperial oppression. Others see him as a terrorist used by shadowy military groups to start a war that killed tens of millions. The truth is probably somewhere in between. But here's what's certain. One teenager's certainty changed history forever. Princip believed killing the Archduke would solve the Serbian problem. Instead, his bullets triggered a chain reaction that reshaped the entire world. The war destroyed the old European order. It created new countries, new borders, new rivalries. The harsh peace treaty humiliated Germany, planting the seeds for World War II just 2 decades later. One teenager, 2 shots, 17 million deaths, and a second world war waiting in the future. Gavrilo Princip never lived to see World War II. He died in 1918, thinking he'd struck a blow for Serbian independence. He had no idea his 2 bullets would echo for 100 years. Today, historians still debate whether he was a freedom fighter or a terrorist, whether his actions were justified or catastrophic. But the numbers are undeniable. 1 teenager with a gun, and the entire 20th century changed. The question is, was Gavrilo Princip responsible for World War I? Or was he just the match that lit a fire that was already waiting to burn? Maybe the real lesson is this. The world was so fragile, so full of rage and rivalry, that 1 teenager's certainty was enough to shatter it. And that should terrify us, because it shows how quickly things can spiral, how one person's actions can ripple across a planet. So did a teenager start World War I? Or did the world's empires and alliances create the conditions for disaster, and Princip was just the trigger? What do you think? Drop your take in the comments. Did Princip change history, or did history create Princip?